Perfect timing. Hello everybody, this is Strugman. Welcome back to Factorio Space Age. We've got a lot of things to talk about because I've done a fair amount of things, and I've kind of started planning out a couple of things as seen by the the thing in the top right hand corner over there, our mini map. But first, we need to speak about, well, handling a couple of problems, namely the neighbors. Hang on a second while we go take care of some things. Alright, well, with all that done, I hope, this is kind of one of those things you gotta occasionally do once in a while, is run around and bother everybody. At the end of last episode, we managed to get a few things. We managed to get some robots, some roboports, better oil, as we can see over here, and, well, we've started to work on a couple of other things. I've since automated, well, we had solid fuel automated prior to and mildly automated a little bit of rocket fuel. I've since done a little bit more fun things. Well, we're just going to go ahead and talk about it because we got to a point last time where I was then able to finish doing a decent amount of the research. So we have our rocket silo opened up for us. We have everything that was capable of being done through blue science, at least up to this point, aside from a couple of the, purple sciences. I went ahead and crafted a small amount of purple science just so that we could unlock the beacons and I believe some other little teeny tiny thing to include reprocessing of a couple of other spots. But anyhow, the plan is the eventualness of building something similar to this. So now that we have beacons, now that we have some amount of modules, it's time to start laying out what I would consider as my early to mid-game transition, where I'm going to start trying to produce a reasonable amount of science in all of the types so that we can start cramming ourselves through some of this other stuff. And to make sure that that happens, so like say some of these things, the reason I'm saying that is because we're to the point where the starter base that we were playing with, we're not making enough science anymore. So like this one for that matter, the next available automation is 500 science. And you go like, okay, well, whatever, that's not terrible. When we start looking at some of these other ones, so like steel plate productivity, this is a new thing that has come with the DLC. Productivity that I'm assuming I'm going to be able to get more steel products out of. Yeah, productivity means I can continuously crank percentage-wise up on how much steel I get, which means that my current steel production will get better the more I do this, which is cool. I mean, right now I believe it's 4 or 5 pieces of iron plate to 1 steel plate, which means this should theoretically go up as we work, which is kind of neat. Productivity for mining. Again, another 1,000 here. Better shooting speed. You start looking at things like this, or, well, not necessarily so much that. The modules are fine. This is going to cost us 500. This, once we get everything built, and even for that matter, just to build the research or build the parts that come with this, these are kind of expensive, to be fair. So it's going to take an awful lot of iron and an awful lot of copper to build a space platform, which is going to be something that I want to make sure I have set up well in advance. So yeah, we're going to have to start really kind of thinking about cranking up both the production for science and production for things like space. So, in of that sense, I have started building, again, what I'm considering is my early to mid-game plan, where we're going to build a small rail facility. And this is small for now. There's at least 4 or 5, or what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slots that we can place trains on. For right now, we're going to be running them on 3s and 4s. There is enough room to do 5 trains, 5 cars on all of these. If we get there, we'll get there. I'm going to probably spend a lot of time playing with little bitty trains, because little bitty trains go faster than big long trains, and I can just stack a lot of little bitty trains in here. And there's actually probably enough room in here to do this at least 1 or 2, maybe 3 more times. I think I can get at least that many more parking spots in that particular lane, which means I can then feed all kinds of trains and whatnot everywhere else. Because of that, I have since started to do a couple of modifications. This used to be our original copper design. This was where we were making copper for the base. I have since converted this one and a couple of other ones over to beaconed electric furnaces that theoretically, if I could feed them a full belt of copper ore in, they will feed us out a full belt of copper plate out. So beacons, this is one of my designs I kind of came up with. I know it's the problem with Factorio is it's been around so long that designs are pretty much redundant at this point in time. So unless somebody's really good at playing puzzles, which is another part of this game, if you've never played it, don't look at anything online until you've absolutely frustrated yourself beyond all possible belief. So what these guys are capable of doing, and this is totally upgradable, it'll actually, once we get better modules and once we get blue belts, this will actually shrink because of the ability to do things. But they're fully beaconed. They're making about 1.7 plates. Well, that one's not. Why are you not? Yeah, we're missing a module in there somewhere. I'm going to have to go figure out where that module's missing. But anyhow, these will continuously work reasonably well. They use an unholy amount of power, but they will definitely run a lot better and do whatever we need to do. And again, like I said, they're upgradable. So I've got one for the copper. I have one up here for this this iron patch. There's one here. There is a steel patch up here. This is a steel furnace recipe where they're basically direct feeding the iron plates straight into the furnace and then it's looping. I try to use underground belts mainly because it's just quicker and easier, and they're quicker to upgrade. You don't have to upgrade a million belts. And this design was one that I had found because I was playing Strip World where I had all the length I could ever possibly want but very little depth. Strip Worlds are only like 128 tiles tall, so it's like literally the distance between, well, probably even less than that. I think it's like the distance between those two bars is pretty much about all the width it is, and it's not a whole heck of a lot, as you can kind of see. Anyhow, with all of the fooling around and messing around with the bugs, we have managed to build a perimeter as well. So I have walls, turrets, self-repairing stuff pretty much all the way around. We have another oil patch, another copper patch, coal patch, stone patch, where I'm actually being bored and smelting stone up here. And let's see, more oil up here. But yes, walls pretty much all the way around at reasonably decent choke points, except for this side. It's apparently we're not going to have any large amount of water or large amount of things over here on this side, so we'll have to play with it. And I also kind of tested a couple of things. That's why there's a long line over here. I tested out the, where are these, the rail supports, the elevated rails, just to see what it would be like, and they're actually not that impossible or hard to play with. They just kind of go down and do whatever you want to do. I took it out because I got over here and I was like, well, there's bugs. I'm not going to be able to do anything with them. I think the biggest problem with the elevated rails is the fact that you as a player can't walk on them once they're up. So if I put one up, and they're massive, at least this part is massive. Once they're up, you can't walk on them. So theoretically, it doesn't matter. It's top-down games, theoretically, where this is supposed to have very surface areas and things like that, where you have like what is it, these cliffs. Technically this is just a wall, and that's what's funny about it. The cliffs are just a wall that you can then move, even though the texture shows it to be higher or lower on one side. If that's the case, then this bridge right here should actually go up twice, and it only goes up once. So it's a kind of an interesting thing. You can actually see it a little better on this one, how it visually doesn't look right, but it does work. So until we can get some things to blow those cliffs up, this is what we're going to do. At least I don't have to dive around them anymore. But yes, we've managed to produce a reasonable amount of stuff. I've been playing with other designs as far as trying to come up, I'm sorry if that's a little dark, trying to come up with other designs to be able to make a reasonable amount of other materials. And I do believe, like I said, we're going to try to probably start having them build this, because I now have bots pretty much everywhere, all over the place. They're doing the work. I've even gone so far as to rip out what was left of the science because we can't use it anymore, and because I have a bunch of things being produced up here, I went and pulled all of the smelting that we had here in the last episode. To be fair, there's probably 20 or 30 hours of me screwing around in between this episode and the last episode. That's just me running around killing bugs, and I mean killing bugs. There was nests like this all over this peninsula and all out through here and all down through here and just everywhere. And we've even managed to collect a single spawner for the moment over here, and it's just going to sit there and kind of hang out and do whatever. So all of that fun stuff. Again, I apologize. We kind of talked a little bit too much. There is a little bit more that we're going to be playing with, and this is one of those times where I'm going to say I'm very, very glad that I found a blueprint. I love this setup for the nuclear reactors, at least for the way things go. It's I found it. I forget exactly who made it, but I found this thing a long time ago on Factorio Blueprints. It is an amazing website for those of you that are just looking to try to do some stuff. There's a whole heck of a lot of logic in this thing, and the really crazy thing is now is we can put logic into these guys. We were not allowed to hook these things up to a circuit network before, whereas now you can. You can read how much fuel they've got in them, you can read what temperature you got into them, and if you feel like you want to be smart, you can do exactly what this thing does. However, what this thing does that, a lot of other things don't do is it's currently burning what's left of a fuel. It'll put a single piece of fuel in here and then warm the reactor up. And then what it's doing is it knows good and well that the majority of all of this stuff is going to be overproducing on steam. So it's overproducing on steam, and it's storing steam in a whole bunch of tanks. And this is one of those things that a lot of people don't know. You can store steam, which is technically a fluid, in tanks, which means if you want to store power outside of batteries, you can store it using this stuff. And I do believe they just got done peeling out the fuel. So what happens is this will run a bit of fuel until it burns the fuel completely out. And as long as these are sitting at 500 C, they will make steam. The beauty is this thing will run way up high and then slowly work its way back down until it drops just under 500. Once it drops just under 500, it throws another piece of fuel back in it, which then heats the heat pipes up. And because the steam is available, it also measures whether or not there's steam in any of the tanks. And if there's steam is low in the tanks, it will then drop fuel in. So at times, one of the other things that a lot of people don't know about these is that they will never go below their lowest temperature. They'll always stay heated unless you dismantle them, or at least they used to. So it's really kind of cool. Anyhow, we're going to kind of mess around with the rest of this. I do have a small processing facility going on, and no Coverex whatsoever. I've processed probably 300, well, not 300, maybe 200 fuel cells through this reprocessing plant, and we still have a lot of, what is that, I always forget what the heck these are called. 235. Lots and lots of 235. So even though you don't have Coverex, the best option is to just process a whole ton of the regular stuff until you can get Coverex and then have fun with it. So play with nuclear right off. We do have little bitty solar panel setups. I did go ahead and build this into my traffic circles or my train circles. There's 101 or 2 solar panels and like 100 accumulators. This is not enough to run the base as it sits right now because we've got so much processing. We've got lots of iron plates and lots of modules and lots of things. But plan again, like I said, for today is that I'm going to, well, I've been kind of slowly building parts and pieces up, so we should have all the parts and pieces that we need in boxes and whatnot out here. I know I've been talking and rambling and whatnot, but we should have all of the parts pieces we need to be able to roughly build the majority of this. Now, that does not mean I can turn it on, but I'm going to go ahead and have them build it so that I can start feeding certain parts in. We are going to, and I don't know where I'm going to do it yet, I'm going to outpost green circuits, red circuits, and possibly blues somewhere, which means we're going to be hauling parts all over the place out there. It might be over here, it might be down here, I don't know yet, but I need this down so that we can go from there. So what we do is, well, there should be, or at least a reasonable amount of things. We can go ahead and just do this from here. Let me have those. Perfect timing. And I think we'll put one about right here. Where is it? There. Connect to that. You here. Power. And then once they get kind of an idea of what's going on over here, I'll be able to place this down. I'm going to say about right there. And then I can do this. Think about right there. And then they'll go to town. And while we're at it, we'll even tell this. I'm going to have to go help them. Anyhow, we'll let them build. Alright, it looks like we're getting there. So the majority of this science is going to be rather slow and terrible, and I do not know why those are in there. I thought I had productivity in these. One of these you can't put productivity in them. Anyhow, some of these we can put productivity in, some of them we can't. We're not trying to go, like I said, I'm not trying to go absolutely crazy, but I would like to be making at least a reasonable amount of science. And when you have a problem with the science, is that like these guys right here take an absolute century to make any kind of science, especially blues. Where is it? Blues, purple is pretty slow. Yellows are terrible. I need to actually probably add a few more of those. But the problem is, again, we're going to be trying to do this in a reasonable amount of time, because I've kind of screwed up and started looking down the trees a little bit and understanding that some of these things that we're going to want, especially later on, late game, are going to cost us like that and well, that and that, and I just like to build out the infrastructure now. Granted, we're on red belts. We don't have the blues up and running yet, and that is a thing I'm not going to really worry about. The labs are probably going to be either right over here or at the bottom of it down here. This is designed to have a bus feed into it, so we will have belts fed in from this side, and I believe our rocket silos are going to live down here once we get to that point. I have to redo some of the math that goes with rockets, at least with the science that goes with rockets, because it is no longer as nasty as it used to be. So as far as the DLC, especially for to be able to build and launch rockets, space rocket parts are not nearly as bad as what it used to be. So I don't have to be as crazy. Let me see. Can I see this? Possibly. Rocket parts. Actually, if I go up here, I am so glad they did this. After playing Minecraft for years and years, we finally have a kind of a similar thing in here. So, rocket parts, where are they? There they are. Okay, rocket parts. Rocket parts are now one processing unit, one low density structure, and one rocket fuel, and 3 seconds to craft. Whereas it used to be something like 10 or 12, I forget exactly. It was a lot. And you had to have so many of those before you could actually build a rocket. And this is one thing that I do know, because I've actually gotten to play. I finished playing with vanilla before I started this one, just understanding this. The rocket silo has changed from the way it used to be as well too, which is really cool. It can now store a fully built rocket. Actually, it can store 2, I believe. So it's really cool. You don't have to have like 16 million rocket silos if you want to do, 1 or 2, rockets per minute or whatever it is. You can actually store 2 rockets in it, and if you can feed it fast enough and keep it fed with both productivity and speed modules in a beaconing style thing, they'll actually build a lot of rockets really quickly. And like I said, the old way of having to make a massive amount of parts like low density structures, we're going to shove more low density structures into our yellow science than we will be putting them into rockets, which is a little bit blowing my mind at this point in time. But again, for the most part, this all should produce something in the neighborhood. Well, I say like I've got how many are there? 14 times whatever that is. So you're looking at like 5 or 6 of those a second, which is not amazing. No, god dang it. Put them back, guys. I love Control Z. I'm so glad they gave it to us. They're going to haul it all the way the heck back over to those buckets and then probably bring them right back, which is fine. It's okay. They've got it all built. But again, like I said, for the most part, we should be making a reasonable amount of science. And once we get a couple more of the productivity things unlocked, namely those, and we get into white science or space science, we'll be able to unlock the next layer of modules, which will give us a considerable benefit over what we've got going right now. No, I have not messed with quality. I'm not messing with quality until we get at least the tier 2, maybe tier 3 quality modules. I've looked into it, I've studied it. It's not worth our time right now. And for what it's worth, you don't need them. I get why people are excited about quality. It's just another level of productivity and efficiency that you can get on things. We'll look at it. We're just not going to do it right now. Anyhow, so all of these little things need to be fed in. The next biggest issue that we've got right now is the fact that we are currently not crafting, well, I'm not crafting a large enough amount of the green circuits, red circuits, blue circuits, as well as this, the gears and the pipes and whatnot, and several other things. So I'm going to have to pull what I can, which is namely just going to be a few things right here, and drive them this direction and plug them in where I can, and then we're going to have to figure out where we're going to do the next big chunk of outposting. So I'm going to figure that out, and I will be back with you guys. I realize that we kind of just, slapped down a bunch of stuff up here and then didn't really talk about it, and we're going to talk about it here in a little bit, or, at least fairly soon, because I kind of want to make sure that we understand some of the silliness that we're planning on doing here. The majority of this science is systems and whatnot and ratios that I've been using for a very long time. And yes, there has been a couple of changes, at least namely with the electric furnaces and the walls. Apparently they have changed some of the ratios, at least for how things go. We're going to try to run beacons on just about everything, and since the last little cut that we had, I've hooked in everything that I could hook in over here with a undergroundy belt, some belt balancers, and, well, just a mess of underground belts that are reasonably set. And then I took a little time and started figuring out what I wanted to do with this mess, because things are always one of those deals. You always kind of forget how many pieces you need to make in order to be able to do a few things. So this should, and I was just kind of testing it on one of my systems or one of my other saves. An old vanilla save, this particular setup right here, not beaconed at all, did about 240 science per minute, which is pretty stinking good given what it does. Now, that's not counting a couple of things, and that was not running the military science. Military science, I forget exactly what this is good for. Doesn't really matter at this point in time. What I like is I like to pick a number and I say I want X amount of science. So the reds and the greens are the beginning, and they're always the kind of a deal that, well, you just slap them down, you make them work. The thing is, after reds and greens, you start to try to come up with a reasonable number of things. So we'll start with blues. Blues are sitting there at 24, and beaconed at such, they should be making somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.1 second. Or if we said, if I grab my calculator out, hey, you know what? Use your stupid calculator. I found a new mod. It's very cool. We had 24 times 3.14, so 24 times 0.34. I love this. I've been doing this whole time. Times 0.3, what is it? 4.13. 0.13. Cannot count, cannot read. 13. Go. Well, that's going to be 3.12 a second, or, and then you multiply that times 60. We're going to be doing about 187, roughly, just with the way this thing is going, per minute. Now, I bring it per minute because I can grasp per minute a little easier sometimes than I can seconds. I do the math in seconds, and then I do the stuff in whatever. I'm trying to aim for around 190. So that's pretty stinking close. We may do a little bit more. Anyhow, we're going to kind of just go with that deal. That's where I kind of like to play with science. And as we wander through this, as we get better crafters, so this whole thing is generally built to be upgraded just as soon as you can get it upgraded. So as soon as we get those next nice little these guys right here, as soon as we get those automation 3 or the next assembling machines, they will be going in to say this line and this line and some of these other lines that are kind of slow. So why we're worrying about it, why I'm talking about this right now, is because, again, I want this to make science. I need about 200 per minute or somewhere around in there. Like I said, 200, 250 per minute would be absolutely fantastic by the time we're done with this whole mess. And when we're set there done with that, and like I say, this is going to be before Module 3s. Module 3s are our next big jump, and Module 3s are going to absolutely kill us because Module 3s are going to require a whole lot of blue circuits. So I've started to lay out where I think we're going to do this. We're going to build these down here fairly close so that I can belt them back in. And the reason why I want to do that is I started crunching numbers and realizing that, well, I was going to have to haul an awful lot of plastic over here, and iron and copper, which we're going to have to do anyway, and the sulfuric acid that the blues need. Well, sulfuric acid we can make right here. The plastic we can make right here. So we're just going to take one of these, this little plastic maker, build another one, flip it over, and just point it at this. Now, here's the thing where it goes. I need various numbers. And my various numbers I have written down in these cool little things. Starting with the blue. We need around 5, and I know this is nutty, 5 blue circuits a second, pretty much. Or as you go with the deal, you can make the math work. So 5 blue a second. We need about 20 outside of all of that, 20 red circuits a second, and we need about 15 green circuits a second outside of what needs to be done here. So this is where you're kind of playing around with this. How do you make this work? Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to inject raw products into this thing. And by raw products, I mean plates. They're not technically raw. I mean, we should be smelting them on site. We're going to be smelting them close. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to inject raw products and output 5 blues a second, 20 reds a second, and more like 30 greens a second, just because I'm going to be lazy and just build the whole thing out. That, in order for that to happen, we have to have at least 24 blue machines, which I need to actually go ahead and clean these up. I did a little bit of trimming to this blueprint. In order to do this, we need 24 of these. In order to feed 24 of these, I need 3 of these. I believe it's going to be something like 2 or 3 or 4, something like that in here, plus an extra, whatever's left over coming out of this system. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 runs of these. Now, all of my beaconed products, all of these things are designed to eat what my max belt capacity is right now. So that means this one little bitty blueprint, which is kind of hard to see, it's literally just a singular thing that kind of looks like a so. Well, we're over here, we can do this. Bang. This one little blueprint is designed to eat a full belt of copper and a full belt of iron. Full belt of copper comes in here, full belt of iron comes in here. They are beaconed as fully as I can get them. They have special little things to make sure that the belt is reasonably balanced. Stuff comes in the top, it leaves the top as the way that it normally works. Sometimes I try to make things work the different direction, but they're designed to eat an entire belt of whatever I put in them. So we're going to need 1, 2, well, I need 6 full belts of copper and 6 full belts of iron just for those. These over here, this one right here, they're designed to eat an entire full belt of green circuits. So, and I know, like I said, full belt, which is the 30 belts that we currently have. They're going to eat the whole thing plus a little extra. I actually had to run an extra one down here, so we're going to see whether or not this actually works. It should. Given the fact we have the extra productivity and given the fact that we have the extra speed, we should be able to handle those. This is going to eat an entire one of those things, like I said, and then it's going to produce between these two a half a belt, or I should say a 15 belt between these 4. So we'll have 4. This will be a full 30 belt of red circuits coming out of here that will then get dumped into this. It's going to eat what it can, and then we'll leave the rest for this. Now, why do I want 5? I don't need 5 right now. I don't need it right now. We need about 2, a little less than 2, in order to make the yellow science up here happy. However, I have yet to build, here's the fun part, I've yet to build a new rocket silo. And in order to, as I've shown, let's see, those should be where? Rocket part. In order to build a rocket part, I need 1 per. Well, depending on how 1 per and the fact that it's a 3-second crafting time, if it's a 3-second crafting time and then I speed that up, how many is it going to be able to chew through in X amount of time? So rockets are our gateway to being able to get more resources, more interesting stuff, and more science. So I want to do it as efficiently and quickly as possible. So I'm going to aim for 5 and hope that's enough. If it's not, well, then we're going to just hope that when we start getting better assemblers that we can make this work a little better. These are set again to eat an entire belt, and actually they're going to be a little over that. They're pretty close. I think the number is something like 3.89 per each deal per second, which is a little more than what I can do. It's supposed to be 7 and like something, and instead we're just going to make sure that they're running overflow. We're going to bring in extra stuff on the sides. I'm going to be running red circuits in here, and we'll bring green in on here, and up there somewhere up in here. I think it's right there. Anyhow, and again, that should produce enough to make this all work. Now, big problem. I don't have all those parts crafted. I don't have nearly enough of that stuff ready to go. So I'm going to do the same thing we did with this. I'm just going to put a couple of things down over here after I empty my inventory with my current bots, and I'm going to let them build that as much as I can. We're going to bring a rail yard in. I'm thinking probably up here, to the point that I might take this right here and smelt it and deliver it directly in. I don't have any iron anywhere close. I've got this that I've got built up. I'll probably smelt this over here and bring that around and drop it in, just so that all of this other stuff that we've got going on all over the place is just for the base for right now. Just for the base for right now. If we have to, we can bring in extra stuff. But I think for right now, I'm going to get to building this, and I will see you all in a little bit. Have fun, fellas. Alrighty, I think we have something to show for all the silly hard work that these poor little robots just got done doing. So as I scroll out, we should now have a reasonably large amount of assemblers sitting over here that are sitting here idle, waiting on me to turning things on, and I wish I would probably stop running into trees with this poor little car. This turned out to be a project. I guess I probably should have maybe recorded a little bit more of it, but it turned out to be a project mainly because I overestimated how much fun it was going to be to try to get certain things into the same area. So I built a kind of a train station here just so that we could kind of supplement some of the things. I did go ahead and build in some some miners and some furnaces. I still need to add a few modules to the beacons on that side, but a good portion of the copper that we need to make this mess run is taken care of by that thing, and I guess it's about as good as it's gonna get for me. I mean, I also went ahead and built. Can I have my map, please? Again, built a little train yard. We're delivering fuel up here using a little bit of magic. There is some stuff, and I know there is some stuff with trains, and I know I'm not ready to test it yet. I understand that there is a new way of running train schedules. I'm not ready to play with it yet, but I'm kind of doing it. And the reason why I'm kind of doing it is because our fuel train is looking at, notice how it's asleep right now. This is not necessarily the interrupt schedule kind of thing, but our fuel train is asleep because it doesn't have a place to go because I'm circuit connecting between a couple of things. Now, this is something you've been able to do for a long time, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm telling this station, tell that train, don't come until this box is empty or, reasonably low or empty. The same thing is going over here. That train will never leave until one or two of those two train stops, or anytime we put a few more of those train stops up there. We may do some more up here. I need to actually get rid of that, but anyhow, it's just one of those kinds of things. There are many ways of doing trains. I am a fan of train yards and parking trains. I understand that's wasting trains. The thing is, as long as the train is sitting still, it's not wasting fuel. So it's not doing anything wrong. Anyhow, we do have our labs back in place. And all I need to do is turn a couple of things on, i.e. I need to come in here and add a couple of little pieces of belt in the lines down here to start this nutty mess off. As soon as I do that, we're going to utterly decimate what little bit of power we have. Well, maybe, hopefully. I went ahead and built a third one of these. So we're sitting right around right now at about 1.5 gigawatts of power. That's not counting the solar. Solar's producing a little bit. We'll just see what happens. I have a pretty good feeling I'm going to break things because I'm going to do that. But I desperately need one thing to make my life so much easier because I've been having to hand feed these things. They're designed to be working with robots, and I haven't been able to use them with robots this whole time. It's been a week of playing with them, and I haven't gotten to mess with them the way they're supposed to be. So let's turn things on, shall we? I need to find this one, and 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 then those will just do the thing. So what's going to happen is these are going to waterfall into the side next to them. We look, let's see, this is the last line. You come across the belts here. This is going to drop and go all the way across to the other side, and it should theoretically find its way through some of this. I think I set this up correctly, didn't I? We're not done. Well, looky there. We get to do some things on camera. I could have swore I had this ready to go. Oh, yeah. Well, as always, we're making some. There's a few red circuits over here happening. Let's see. I didn't get the one right here. Why? Why are you not working? Oh, as always. Put one of those in there. And then you are not happy. Why? There. Okay, so now those should start doing what they're supposed to be doing. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm splitting each one of these green circuit systems into a red circuit system. So they'll each be able to theoretically feed, or hopefully help to feed, at least 2 of these. I know it's going to be kind of slow and not exactly great. Again, a lot of this is built waiting on better modules. We're waiting on better modules is basically what this is going to be. It's all going to be really slow until we get better modules. But it does look like we're slowly accumulating a few things. So this is the kind of number that I was expecting to see. So it's kind of hard to tell in here, but like this one, that line is coming over here, splitting, and it's jumping onto this belt with some plastic, going through and going onto this belt. The one underneath of it is going through, grabbing up, jumping over, going, like I said, this is spaghetti. But it's amazing spaghetti. And then whatever's left, well, I'm going to say whatever's left, one is going up here, and the rest of those green circuits are going down here to produce not a whole heck of a lot of blue circuits. The whole thing is, I need a full belt. I don't even need a full belt of green circuits. I need like 20, 25 of these red circuits to be going on past all of this stuff per second. So like, you know, whatever that number is, we need to be making about 5 of these, 6 of these a second, so that we can then run all of this stuff all the way back up here to do just a very, very minute amount of science. But that should have been everything we needed to start crafting the sciences that we don't currently have. So I'm going to have to let a few things run here for just a little bit, but this I like to see. Why are we not working? Again, some of this stuff got seriously changed while I was working on some things, but I really, really, really want some of these going. I'd really like to start doing this one right now. So as this cranks up, we'll see what happens. But we should be seeing, good, greens are being assembled, reds are being assembled, blues are being assembled. Blues are incredibly slow, but we should be all right with those. And once the reds catch up with the yellows, the blues, once the blue circuits down there are caught up and filled in all the way down the line to be, wherever the heck are they? They're over here. Yeah, I may have to work a little bit more on these. I'm hoping the math works. Again, we're still going to have to kind of do a couple of things. As soon, and I mean as soon as I can get Automation 3, we're going to probably, well, this and the logistics, actually, go ahead. Well, logistics are a while. As soon as we get Automation 3 and this one done, I'm going to go back and probably tear a whole bunch of that apart. So I think for right now, that's been a whole heck of a lot of work. Again, a lot of this stuff is just me doing this for many, many years and watching other people do it, and, you know, stealing ideas and modifying it to make it my own, and doing other things. And I've really, really, really loved this game, and I'm so glad to be doing science again. It's been a long week, but I think for now, while we're doing that, I will see you all in the next one. There's going to be a little bit of a different episode. We're going to just probably talk and ramble and have fun and build stuff, and then we'll see what happens in the next one. Hopefully we'll get to be building one of these things, which I could probably have it build right now if I wanted to, but I'll save that for later. See y'all later. Thanks so much for watching. Bye. That's a nice conglomeration of stuff, isn't it?